Welcome. This video gives an overall view of the prose piece in celebration of being alive by Dr. Christian Bernard. About the author. Christian Neethling Bernard was born in rural South Africa in 1922 to poor parents as their fourth child. He showed great interest in his academics and was determined to pursue medicine after the loss of his brother to a cardiac ailment. He won many scholarships and pursued his higher studies, specializing in cardiac surgery. After experimenting with heart transplantation on animals, he performed the world's first human-to-human heart transplant in the year 1967. He gained worldwide recognition and went on to develop many surgery techniques which are being adopted till date. Bernard has penned 14 books and 235 scientific articles that are being published in reputed journals. One Life, 50 Ways to a Healthy Heart, The Best Medicine, and The Faith were some of his books. A pioneer in cardiac surgery, he obtained a doctorate in medicine from the University of Cape Town. This was followed by 11 honorary doctorates bestowed upon him by universities all over the world. He has also received 36 international awards. In his late years, he established the Christian Bernard Foundation to serve and promote the cause of underprivileged children throughout the world and died at the age of 78 in the year 2001. Dr. Bernard was the first doctor to perform a heart transplant surgery. He narrates an experience which has changed his perspective of life altogether. He used to think why people should suffer. Many children in the world die at a young age and many others end up as mental or physical cripples. He and his wife suffered due to an accident. He thought that the patients accepted it as their fate. One incident changed his perception of suffering. After meeting with a road accident, Dr. Bernard and his wife were undergoing treatment in an hospital. One day in the hospital, he saw a blind mechanic and a driver with one arm commandeering a breakfast trolley. The young patients were running a race with joy. The other patients encouraged them. In fact, the boys were patients. One of the boys had severe third-degree burns and his face was disfigured. The other boy had a hole in his heart which had been closed by the author. He had to visit the hospital for a malignant tumor of the bone and had an amputated arm. Both the boys brushed aside their disabilities and were happy. The business of living is a celebration of being alive. He learned a lesson that it is not what you have lost is important. What is important is what you are left with.
In celebration of being alive is an extract from a speech of Dr. Christian Bernard, the first doctor to perform a heart transplant surgery. Why people should suffer troubled Dr. Bernard as he neared the end of his career as heart surgeon. Dr. Bernard provided a statistical data that of 125 million children born this year, 12 million are unlikely to reach the age of 1, and 6 million will die before the age of 5, and rest end up as mental or physical cripples. His gloomy thoughts stem from an accident. One day, Dr. Bernard and his wife were crossing a street after a happy meal. Dr. Bernard and his wife met a severe accident. He had his ribs broken and perforated lung, and his wife was severely hurt. The hospitalization of Bernard and his wife had affected their routine. Patients were waiting for him to operate them. His wife had a young baby who needed her care. Dr. Bernard was filled with agony, fear, and anger. He could not understand why such thing had happened to them. Dr. Bernard's father believed that suffering was God's way of making one noble. But Bernard did not find any nobility in the crying of child in the ward. He found the suffering of children heartbreaking because of their total trust in doctor. This Dr. Bernard is compassionate towards children. Several years earlier, one day Bernard had witnessed that he called a Grand Prix. An unattended breakfast trolley was taken by two boys, a driver and a mechanic. The choice of roles was easy because the mechanic was blind and provided the motor power. The driver had only one arm and steered the trolley. The rest of the patients joined the fun and encouraged them. The mechanic was a 7-year-old boy. His mother flung a lantern at his father. The lantern missed and broke over the boy's head, resulting in loss of sight. The driver was hospitalized for bone tumor and his arm was cut off by surgical operation. Dr. Bernard realized the two boys had taught him a great lesson. He learned that the business of living is the celebration of being alive.
Synonyms. Consideration, careful thought. Prevalent, common. Cripples, people with some disability. Agony, extreme physical and mental suffering. Perforated, torn and damaged with holes. Ennobles, makes dignified or morally noble. Thrash around, to move about restlessly. Sophisticated, well advanced or modern. Mutilating surgery, surgery to remove a tissue with high risk. Grand Prix, international motor racing events. Solace, comfort or consolation in times of grief. Intrepid, bold and daring. Finale, climax or an exciting end. Disfigured, spoiled or marred in appearance. Malignant, very harmful to life because of disease. Tumor, diseased growth in the body. Amputated, cut off by surgical operation. Profound, very great. Antonyms. Agony, comfort. appreciate, criticize, galloping, halting, healed, injured, joy, misery, nobility, dishonor, amputated, joined, celebration, cheerlessness, gloomy, cheerful, intrepid, meek, malignant, harmless, scattered, gathered. Questions and answers. What thoughts troubled Dr. Christian Barnard as he neared the end of his career as a heart surgeon? The thoughts about the sufferings of the people troubled Dr. Christian Barnard as he neared the end of his career as a heart surgeon. What were Dr. Barnard's feelings when he was hospitalized after an accident? Dr. Barnard experienced not only agony and fear, but also anger when he was hospitalized after an accident. He could not understand why his wife and he had to suffer. How did the hospitalization of Dr. Barnard and his wife affect their routine? Due to hospitalization, Dr. Barnard could not attend to his patients who were waiting to be operated on them. His wife could not take care of her young baby. How was Dr. Barnard's attitude to suffering different from that of his father? Dr. Barnard saw nothing noble in a patient's suffering, but his father believed that it was God's will and that was the way God would test people to make them a better person. How was the unattended trolley put to use? The unattended trolley by the nurse was put to use by two boys. They used it as a toy car. One acted as a driver and the other as a mechanic. What roles did the duo take up, or why did the choice of roles prove to be easy for them? One of the boys was physically challenged. The other was visually challenged. The physically challenged boy acted as a driver and the visually challenged boy acted as a mechanic as they could easily perform their tasks. Who encouraged them and how? The rest of the patients encouraged them by laughter and shouts. What does Dr. Barnard compare this entertainment to? Dr. Barnard compares this entertainment to the Grand Prix of Indianapolis 500 car race. What happened in the grand finale? In the grand finale, plates and silverware were scattered before the nurse, and Watt's sister caught up with them, scolded them, and put them back to bed. How does Dr. Barnard know the boy who played the trolley's driver? A few years earlier, Dr. Barnard had successfully closed a hole in the trolley driver's heart. What was a profound lesson that Dr. Bernard learned from the boys? The business of living is a celebration of being alive. This was the profound lesson that Dr. Bernard learned from the boys. Detail the statistics Dr. Bernard has provided in his speech. Out of the 125 million children born this year, 12 million are unlikely to reach the age of 1, and another 6 million will die before the age of 5. And of the rest, many will end up as mental or physical cripples. What happened when the doctor couple were crossing the street? Or when and where did the accident occur? When the doctor couple were crossing the street after a lovely meal, a car hit him and knocked him into his wife. She was thrown into the other lane and struck by a car coming from the opposite direction. What injuries did they sustain in the accident? Dr. Bernard had 11 broken ribs and a perforated lung. His wife had a badly fractured shoulder. Dr. Bernard couldn't find any nobility in suffering. Why? Dr. Bernard experienced sufferings and pains during the time of his hospitalization. He could feel others too. So he felt he couldn't find any nobility in suffering. How did the boy who played the mechanic lose his eyesight? One night, the mechanic's mother and father were drunk. His mother threw a lantern at his father, which missed, and the lantern broke over the child's head and shoulders. He suffered severe third-degree burns on the upper part of his body and lost both his eyes. Why does Dr. Bernard describe the blind boy as a walking horror? The blind boy had a disfigured face and a long flap of skin hanging from the side of his neck to his body. As the wound healed around his neck, his lower jaw became gripped in a mass of fibrous tissue. The only way this little boy could open his mouth was to raise his head. So, Dr. Bernard describes the blind boy as a walking horror. What were the problems the trolley driver suffered from? Earlier, the trolley driver had a hole in his heart. It was successfully closed by Dr. Bernard. The boy had to return to the hospital as he had a malignant tumor of the bone. These were the problems the trolley driver suffered from. Thank you. Thank you for watching.